Right. There we go.
Jack and Tito is back.
Back on the stream, baby. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Are you in Dubai right now?
I'm in Dubai, and believe it or not, but it's actually hoodie weather. It's getting fresher as well. So
wonderful. I bet that feels good after all the 30s and 40s lately.
Yeah. I mean, I was out during summer for like 2 months because it was just too hot. Like you can literally not go outside. It's like you're in an oven. Yeah. But now it's very nice. Now it's kind of like season. A lot of tourists are here as well. Everything is packed.
Cool.
Until kind of April, May. But yeah, how about you? What's up with you?
Yeah, just kind of doing the California thing. It's nice. Yeah, the new kid keeps me busy, so it's like work and kids, and that's kind of what life is these days.
Nice. But yeah, also I think for those that are new, that don't know you, you are actually an absolute Cosmos OG, one of the earliest contributors and also developers and builders for IBC itself. And also I love to, always kind of also remind myself where I come from, because you onboarded me to Cosmos. And I also think it's important to give credits where, certain people or decisions.
I very much appreciate that. I think that it's, this is the thing we all did together, and it's been cool. It's been a cool journey.
Yeah. But also I will say, like, back when we first talked, I think was December 2020. I remember I had like a few thousand followers. I was literally just brand new to Cosmos. I had no idea about any of that. I just had some Atom in my wallet, and I made a tweet, and you actually responded, and you were like, yo, let me walk you through what IBC is and the internet of blockchains. And you were so excited about it.
I was the Mert of Cosmos for a very long time.
I know. And I remember also back then, it's like, there was like Sunny, who had like a lot of followers, and you had a lot of followers, and Ethan Buckman and Zaki. It's like the influencers in Cosmos are actually the builders, are actually like the developers. So those were the good times.
It's been an interesting run. Yeah. So where do we start here? Should we go like do a 2024 recap, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, I think it would be good, because it's been actually 8 months since I live streamed, and it's also been 8 months since we did this show together. So I think maybe a 2024 recap. I think last time we talked was also a little bit of a bullish environment, which is now as well the case. So maybe just for you personally, business-wise, crypto, Cosmos, anything.
Last time we talked, it was that like weird pump at the end of last year, I guess. We're kind of in the middle of that. And I mean, I think that what happened since then, like Cosmos did really well in that pump. And then, I think what happened was the air kind of pulled out of the space again. The increase in regulatory pressure in the US really bit a lot of folks, us included. Business kind of slowed to a grinding halt. And there was this huge Solana run with the meme coins. And even during that period in time, you saw Ethereum showing relative weakness, Solana showing relative strength, and Bitcoin kind of leading the pack. With the onset of the proper bull market now, I think you can kind of look at what happened last year as DeFi summer kind of rhymes with DeFi summer from 2020. And now we're seeing, Litecoin and Ripple and all these other projects from 2017 get life again, because we're in that part of the cycle, because that happens every time. But it's been interesting. I think, a lot of the things that people were frustrated about with Cosmos sort of showed up deeply in 2024 in the price action, candidly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think during summer we had this like all-time low in sentiment and vibes, and I guess it's also like fair enough after like 3 years bear market. Terra Collapse, I think, still had some deep wounds, if you pronounce it like that, in especially in Cosmos. But I think what I want to ask is also like, this is, we label this, or we call this stream the Cosmos 2025, and also I want to get to kind of your outlook for crypto in the US in 2025 now with the elections. But just for like 2024, how did the sentiment change at all after November 5, I guess, when Trump won the election, like in the US, for you being there?
I woke up feeling completely different. We had a number of things that were huge catalysts for Strangelove individually sort of towards the end of this year. And the weird thing is they all kind of ended up happening within days of the election in terms of timing for us. And for months, I was telling even starting in the summer, I was like, hey guys, this election is huge. It's going to determine the course of the industry for the next few years, whether we go underground and have to fight this and it's much harder, or it's, a positive environment for us in America, because my team's all American. So, I mean, the few months leading up to the election felt really uncertain, the most uncertainty I've personally faced since I've been full-time in this industry since 2017. So that was pretty wild. This felt very different from even that sort of 2018, 2019 drawdown. But waking up the day after the election, you know that things are going to open up. You need to ask forgiveness, not permission now. And a lot of the regulatory crackdown is just going to kind of fade away. And I think you see that also with the court cases, powerful penumbra zone. But folks doing privacy work have for a long time been arguing that the Tornado Cash detention and the work that the Treasury Department did to make that illegal was unconstitutional under the First Amendment. We saw court strike that down. So it's, not just the election, but there's many things where that tide has turned. And I think on the ground in America, you definitely feel it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not American, I'm German, but I live in Dubai, but I was still watching every single, every single debate, every single rally, and it has an impact. And obviously, Bitcoin reacted immediately, altcoins reacted immediately. Now we have this huge pump from US-based coins, XRP, Hedera. I think it's definitely impacting the trajectory for the crypto, I guess, bull run in 2025. But I think I see a lot of also hello chat, by the way. There's already some good questions coming in.
Yeah, a lot of folks in there. Busy chat today.
Yeah, man, people have been asking me a lot for when is Jack coming back. But I think the roadmap we have for today is mainly THORChain, because now you, Strangelove, are heavily involved in the development of THORChain. I remember us having episodes years ago where why is THORChain integrating IBC? When is that happening? And I think they're really doubling down on that. So you want to start off there? How did you even get in touch with them and with JP? And
I mean, I met JP for the first time back in 2018, and I have been talking to the Nine Realms folks consistently for years. Really have enjoyed working with that team and kind of try to support them in their Cosmos journey. And for a long time, I've been like, hey guys, we'd love to help out. I think we've got a ton of expertise that could really help. And when I saw JP take off the Anon thing, because I don't know if you know this, but JP was basically running THORChain as a set of Anon handles for years, which is one of the most crypto things ever.
Yeah, I always thought it's Chad, who was kind of the main guy, but I think he's they're both co-founders, I guess. Maybe there's some more people. But JP only came public sometime last year, right? Mid last year or something?
Yeah. Well, it was actually only about, I think it was May, March or May this year when he kind of came out. But my understanding is that JP's always kind of been the core driver behind the project and the founder. Chad was this sort of leading developer and the public face of the project, but most of the contributors were anonymous. Many of the Nine Realms teams, they are anon, kind of pseudo-anon, Orion and Pluto and all those folks. I know them as their handles. I've heard their real names before, but they are their handles, and publicly they definitely also do that too. So I think Chad had a lot of visibility as one of the only doxed founders there, doxed early engineers there. He left for his own reasons. I haven't talked to Chad in a while. Would love to catch up with him soon, but maybe he'll be back. But and then JP sort of came back, and I think one of the things that I've been missing in Cosmos is clear leadership and direction. And I think as a project, there's the hub, there's the ICF, there's all these things. And each one of those is kind of pulling in a different direction. And that dynamic for me personally has made it really hard to do business and really hard to kind of figure out where to put our energy. So when the opportunity came to start working with the THORChain team, I think JP has a clear North Star: drive DEX volume, make the best user experience for DEX in the multi-chain, and do everything we have to do that. We've got a ton of tools to help make that happen, and it makes it very clear the engineering work that needs to be done. So, have really enjoyed working with them. We started working with them full-time back in, I believe it was July of this year. And then, working on deepening that relationship right now, but really like working with the THORChain folks. I think when you look back at the sort of 2024, the macro picture, Bitcoin and Solana outperforming, I think you have to see like those are the ecosystems for various reasons. Like I think Solana for its strong leadership from Anatoly and the Solana Foundation that have really helped keep them a much more coherent community than what Ethereum has dealt with. And Bitcoin being Bitcoin, THORChain has the largest decentralized Bitcoin exchange. There's WBTC, but that has its own issues with Justin Sun. There's some of these other decentralized protocols, but THORChain is, I think last time I checked, it was a little over 100 million in Bitcoin liquidity, which is way more than all these other Bitcoin L2s. In a DEX, and they've really worked very hard to enable low slippage on large swaps and a great user experience for swapping between majors. And they built a really strong business on that. And the work that JP is doing right now is focused on bringing in more volume through DEX aggregation, paying for order flow, connecting to new chains, and helping tell a coherent story around that to investors. And I think that if you look at where the market is and the relative strength that Bitcoin's likely to show, with the US regulatory environment very much embracing, especially the Bitcoin side of the industry, I'm extremely bullish on THORChain's prospects over the next few years.
Yeah, I also remember Eric Voorhees has been a huge proponent of THORChain since the early days. And
it's his, that's his original vision. If you used OG Shapeshift back in 2016, like that's what THORChain does, except it takes out the Shapeshift servers, which is why the FBI shut them down.
Yeah, but I think it's also like, I'm pretty sure that like a lot of people are not actually aware that THORChain is also a full-on Cosmos blockchain. And I think that also kind of proves the whole assumptions about Cosmos, all about sovereignty and interoperability. Like you don't have to like brag about being Cosmos, right? You can just be Cosmos, but you can have your own kind of community, your own environment, your own flavors, your own everything.
I mean, I think that, that's a story I've been telling for a long time. And I think that it is increasingly complicated. Just to sort of dig into that a little bit more, if you look at things like the big stories right now are Ripple and Hyperledger over the last couple of weeks. And like, what do those have to do with Cosmos? Well, Ripple's new EVM product that they're going to do a bunch of degen shit on is evmos. The evmos team is like, that's what they work on now. They're like working on Ripple. If you look at Hyperledger, what is it? It's a 4-node Tendermint cluster with a custom state machine built in Rust. Neither of those projects are using IBC. But it does show the underlying dominance of the Cosmos tech stack. For a long time, I've been saying like, I'm really bullish on the tech stack, the tokens themselves, like kind of hard right now. And I tried 2 times in the last 2 years to raise for a startup focused on the Cosmos tech stack. And there was literally no VC appetite for it. So, at this point, that sort of rolls into roll chains, which we were spinning out and working on for a while. What we found is there was effectively no demand for that. And it was better if we just rolled that back into Strangelove. So anyway, I have an overdue blog post for roll chains to sunset that brand, roll it back into Strangelove, and like figure that out. So yeah, I don't know. Right now, Strangelove is in a bit of an experimentation phase. We're trying to work with the partners that we have and continue to push forward the ecosystem in that way, but also trying to figure out where the new products are and what to build next.
Yeah, I remember we talked a lot about this, what you just described years ago. And I think it's still not fixed.
It's been a consistent discussion for a long
I
time.
know, yeah.
And what if you go back and watch those old shows, what I was saying back then is in order for the Cosmos ecosystem to capitalize on the technology, we need to ensure that it is properly funded and that a lot of the conflicts that are leading to suboptimal resource allocation on the open source project, for a lack of a more descriptive way to say that, those are going to end up leading to the stack failing to capture value for the great open source work that it's done. And I think, again, we're still there, but we're now a couple of years down the road of just letting that flow out of the fingers. And it's going to be interesting to see how the core contributors do that, because now Strangelove is no longer really a core contributor to the stack. We've got a few libraries we maintain, but like that's not what we're doing anymore. That's not our day-to-day, because we haven't been able to make a business out of that. And
I think it's also like, obviously you're much longer in the ecosystem than I am, but from my point of view as a content creator and also with customers and doing events, I have pretty much the exact same kind of conclusion, like in terms of like coordination, right? And people from the outside that are coming to customers, for example, they're like, how do you mean this is not organized by the foundation? How do you mean this is like just you guys like just running that? So I think at the same time, I think the flip side of, Cosmos being such an uncoordinated ecosystem also allowed for people like me, like random community members, pretty much like 4 years ago, to kind of step up and just contribute myself, right? The ideas that I have. And I think this is very, very uncommon or even impossible in any other ecosystem. So I think, it's very tough. And I think building a business is very, very tough in Cosmos. But and at the same time, like you kind of, I guess, have to find your own way and like your own way to monetize and sustain. And it sounds like like this year has been a bit of a pivotal year from what you're describing, with kind of bringing THORChains back to Strangelove and going all in on THORChain, I guess. And we can also talk about Penumbra, but I don't know.
I mean, we're also one of the core contributors to Wormhole. We maintain all of the Cosmos section of their code and continue to push things forward there. We built and launched Noble last year. Like, we've done a lot. And I think that it is, you're talking about the foundation. I think it's really apropos. Like, ICF has supported us for years. I don't want to say anything bad about the ICF. I think that they've been dealt an incredibly challenging hand, and there's been a lot of turnover there. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of stabilize that situation. I think there's a bunch of things going on behind the scenes that I can't really talk about. But what I will say is that when you first started doing Cosmoverse, I thought, man, this whole emergent coordination thing is pretty cool. Juno was still like happening and a functional multi-sig. There were a bunch of pieces there. And, I was super excited about DAO tooling and figuring out how decentralized coordination was going to work in practice over longer timescales. Zoom forward a couple of years, I'm very bearish decentralized coordination and much more bullish on strong leaders. And I think that, I have pivoted my own leadership style from being much more laissez-faire and letting people do their own things to very firmly setting direction, really firmly setting things and like driving things forward on my own. And, you see this talk about founder mode and all of those things. Like, there's been a shift within the industry, I think among the OGs, also sort of in this variation as well. And like moving away from some of these more decentralized projects towards a more like streamlined and centralized thing. And when talking about Solana versus Ethereum, I think that is also pretty clear for folks. Ethereum does have Vitalik and they've got all these people, but it is relatively decentralized. And you see this argument over the future roadmap that feels very Atom 2.0 reminiscent in a lot of ways, spilling over into public and showing the messiness of that social layer and how decentralization works in practice. And you contrast, and like you look at the different roadmaps for Ethereum, and they're all like these complicated diagrams, and there's arrows everywhere, and they've got like little progress bars, and like, you know, Vitalik's got one, and Justin Drake's got one, and they've all kind of got their own thing. Nobody really knows what the North Star is. And like, that's a debate that the Ethereum community has been having on and off. And then price action happens somewhere, people get distracted, and then there's no North Star still. But if you look at Solana, what is their North Star? IBRL, increased bandwidth, reduced latency. And I think that those kinds of simple communication, clear leadership, and like strong direction is really critical to build and maintain a project over time. And this is like a big part of the reason why we've leaned in a lot more on THORChain is like increased DEX volume is the goal. Everything else is subservient to that. And when you have a goal with measurable KPIs and you can break those down into things, it makes it much easier to build and ship, do it repeatably, and get customers, rather than a sort of like decentralized decision-making process where everyone's kind of pulling it in their own direction, and then it ends up getting captured by special interests, which I've just watched happen over and over again. So yeah, my overall view on the space is definitely very different than it was when we started doing these.
Yeah. No, I think one thing that is still the same though is that you're one of the best persons to articulate and explain, and also like just publicly document. I think that's also why this show is so successful, right? And we've been doing this for like 4 years, and I literally saw people like, you know, saying like 2022 vibes. Like there's people following this show since 2-3 years, right? And they're like, when is Jack back? I also see Galatasaray CA, he's a frequent guest. People are excited, and also I think you have been very, very important for the ecosystem to also get the word out and like onboard people like me. And you surely did this with hundreds of other people and like developers that are maybe don't have even a Twitter profile, right? So I think we need 100 Jacks. Like imagine we had 100 Jacks and they were all nice to each other. Like,
you know, that would be fantastic. I would love that. You know, what I want to be on here and be positive. So I don't really want to talk about my regrets here, but what I will say is there's a massive incentive alignment problem in Cosmos. And, you know, I have, every time I post something, there's 90% of the time someone in replies saying something horrible about me. So like, you know, that incentive alignment problem, like I get blamed for a lot because I have helped launch projects. But I think what people don't see is that I just kept bringing people in and launching stuff. And I gave away a lot of that knowledge and equity and stuff. Like I didn't keep it the same way some other folks did. So, you know, I've done great. I have nothing to complain about. I have a business. We do awesome. We bring in a ton of revenue. But, you know, for the scale of project Cosmos is, like, I'm not flying all over the world and living in a mansion. But, you know, I think that crypto is successful when people find success in it and bring more people in. And I think what we've done really poorly in Cosmos is spreading the wealth and making sure that we make people successful. I've tried to do that. And Cito, I think that what you just said is like, Jack, you've done that. Like I brought you in, I brought a number of people in. I've worked very hard to make people successful in this ecosystem and to make people money, because that's the way you make a lasting impact in the space. Wow. And I think what Cosmos has utterly failed to do is make people money. And like, it's very reductive, but it's a fact. And it's something that no amount of fancy technical jargon will ever get past. And that is, I think, the challenge for Cosmos moving forward is figure out how to make people money. And we need to be laser focused on that and users. And that's kind of where I'm pivoting my energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people here love you on the channel. The chat loves you. So
well, thank you.
I think that's also the thing, right? Like, and obviously I went through some things as well. And like, it's also the thing, like if you're in the front lines and, you know, price goes down, like you're first in line to take all the blame, right? And to be the villain for the ecosystem.
Oh yeah.
But when things go well, I guess, you know, I mean, I notice it here in the channel, right? If Atom or whatever.
I mean, there are people in the Cosmos ecosystem who are prominent voices who have made most of their career from criticizing and attacking me personally.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I
that's
can see that.
wild. That is wild to me.
There's also a form, I think, like how some people actually are approaching this, like, you know,
Yeah.
not even like new people on Twitter villains, whatever. I think because I understand that, like, being this kind of very negative, you know, spreading weird things or whatever, is also highly engaging, right?
Yeah.
I could have done a lot of videos,
Totally.
you know, calling death upon crypto and Cosmos, and it would probably
Yeah.
have gotten a lot of views.
Way
but I
more
think,
views. Way more
Yeah.
views. You'd have made way more money, Cito. You would have made way more money.
Yeah.
But I think that what people miss is that's a local maxima.
Yeah.
And, you know, I keep my mouth shut about a lot of this stuff. Like, I just don't say anything. And because I'm playing a long game. I am here
Yeah.
to try to make decentralized money happen. Like, you know, we got to make technology that the government cannot take. We need to make technology that enables self-sovereignty. And you see the, you know, martial law in Korea today. It underscores this importance again and again. But the road of being positive and building and just continuing to do it is much more uncertain. It's much harder, but you have to just stick with it. As soon as you start going down this road of, like, you know, and I've been guilty of this at periods in my past, I think especially during the Atom 2.0 debate, I was not constructive and rage baity. And I think reflecting on that, like, you know, I don't want to do that anymore. And that's why I've, like, kept my mouth shut for the last couple of years. Is like, I learned a lesson then, and I've tried to step back, listen more, and try to build the things that people want and do it with my mouth shut.
Yeah. But I also feel like you're, and that's probably also why you and I are vibing, is because I think you're generally a very, very positive person. Like,
yeah,
you got a lot of stuff, and like everyone did, but you're still kind of forward looking, you know, ignore the FUD, whatever. Like, let's just keep building. Let's focus on what actually matters. And at the same time, also think about, okay, how can we actually grow, right? Because the thing is also, you could have just said, like, fuck it, whatever. I'm just going to do this little thing. Everyone else can fuck off. I'm just going to focus on that. And that's just it, right? But you still have this inner, like, drive and ambition to grow and to hire more people and to advance and improve, right? And you also have responsibility for other people as well.
I mean, Cito, you know this.
Employees.
Like, when you make enough money, you can either choose to go live on a fucking farm somewhere and pinch your pennies, or you can go build something that people use and go make a difference in the world. And like, I want to build things that people use. I want to drive forward the state of the art. I want to be a part of the solution. And like, that is what I want to spend my time and money doing. And that's what I spend my time and money doing. I could have easily just walked off into the sunset. Could have done it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I fantasize about that sometimes, but I know that it's not what brings me joy. What brings me joy is building products that make people happy and change their lives. And I want to continue to do that. And I'm going to, you know, one way or another. It's going to look different than it has in the past. You know, a big thing that's happened over the last year is AI, generative AI, and the ease of ability to use that. And we see this with the Akash pump quite a bit. You know, that was part of my initial thesis on Akash and why I've loved that project. I think it's really important. And, you know, you look at all these like agent frameworks and stuff, like I think if you had talked to me 3 months ago, I would have said that's all scams and vaporware. And the more I look into it, I'm like 95% of it is scams and vaporware, but there is a there because AI agents do need blockchain amounts of data to help coordinate their tasks and do payment and things like that. And someone's going to build it and make a ton of money off of it. And like, maybe it's one of the market entrants right now, but maybe we see some advances and changes in the way AI and agents work that knock those folks off or whatever it is. But I do think there's a ton of opportunity in that space.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a huge vertical. We talked about DeFi as well, with THORChain taking the lead, Dydx as well, made in Cosmos. Privacy is also a big one. We have Namada launched mainnet just like 2 hours ago.
Congrats, Chris. Congrats, Awa. Congrats, that whole team over there. They rock.
Yeah, that's a big milestone. Also, congrats from my side. You're heavily involved in Penumbra. I think also I watched briefly like some parts from our last episode 8 months ago. We talked about it already. about Namada as well, about Penumbra. So maybe we can keep this a bit shorter. But yeah, talk a little bit about, I don't know, your involvements in Penumbra.
I can go a little bit longer. Like, I'm happy to like talk about these things for some detail.
Okay.
You know, I think that especially after the Tornado Cash sanctions, like to continue to be building in privacy takes a ton of courage.
Yeah.
I have a massive amount of respect for all of the teams that are building in privacy. As a US person, like looking at our exposure leading up to the election, the work that we did with Penumbra was definitely the work that I felt most uneasy about from a, like, I might get a knock on my door perspective. You know, which always made me want to keep doing it and double down on that project. We've tried to continue to do that. I think that they're fantastic folks. I think a lot of people, especially retail, is really confused by the Penumbra launch. The message I've been trying to get out to folks is that Henry and the team built the sort of bones of a protocol. And you can think of it like when you build a house, you need to build the frame and the foundation before you put on the doors and put on the windows and make sure there's no drafts and all of those pieces. They have an amazing frame for privacy that will enable them to deliver on the vision of fully private trading and a like fast, fully private blockchain that enables like the basic use cases that you would need for money. But they're missing a lot of the trimming and the nice affordances. Like they need to put some doors in, they need to put some windows in, we need some lights in rooms that don't have them and things like that. And, you know, I chat with the team, the newer version of the DEX interface that I saw this week looks amazing. And I think that they're going to just continue to ship more and more things. And I think we're in a world where within a couple of months, that is on par with user experience for some non-shielded chains. And that's really incredible. It's taken them a little while to build out some RPC infrastructure, to fix some issues in production with the browser light node syncing, but there's few projects that better embody the ethos of crypto that animated me to come into the space better than Penumbra. And I think Namada also very much embodies that, just from a different set of priors and backgrounds. But the Aztec team, another team working on privacy, there's a number of teams that are working on it right now. But I do think it's some of the most important work that we're doing in crypto.
Can you maybe, I think I saw this question a lot on Twitter as well, and from people, like, what's the actual main difference between Namada and Penumbra? I think people are really kind of puzzled about that.
Yeah, I think that Penumbra is a DEX, and they've got some more programmability features. Namada is a little bit more focused on intents. I think another piece of it is the light node piece. Penumbra has done a ton of engineering work to make it performant to sync a light node and to, as a client, get strong assurances from the protocol. Namada has done less of that work.
Okay. Yeah, but both did airdrops, by the way. Like
yes, they did.
The Num airdrop is coming in phase 5. We're also going to do a special, I don't know, live stream or piece of content with the Namada team around the time. I'm already in touch with them. But yeah, so in terms of privacy, like it sounds like I also made a video about that. Like I feel like with this, I don't know, was it like the court that basically said, right, like this was basically not in their authority to kind of, this stuff around Tornado Cash. But
it's freedom of speech. Fundamentally, when you write code, you are engaging in protected speech under the First Amendment. And the argument's incredibly simple. And, you know, when you write code, you're speaking. Like, it's the same thing as publishing an essay, which is sort of the exact thing that the First Amendment was designed to protect. And what the US government was trying to say, the Treasury Department was trying to say, was that developers are liable for the code that they write, even if it's open source and freely available, which is, I mean, literally would have put me in jail. Like if they had pushed that through and continued to persecute that, which a Kamala Harris administration would have done, the chances of Jack going to jail would have been non-zero. And like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, very fucked up.
Yeah.
It would have been difficult to do the streams as well. From But yeah, so they were basically also saying that a smart contracts cannot be kind of represented by one person, right, or one entity. But like, what's the implications for that now? Because
the smart contract sides of it, I think, are interesting. You know, I think, long story short, in the US, we're going from a place where it was everything was illegal, and like if you wanted to do something, you had to take on a ton of risk, and no matter what you did, even if you had a bunch of lawyers and tried to do it right, you were going to face opposition and lawfare. And now we're in a position where it's really Wild West. And I think that, you know, people are going to launch all kinds of things. And that's good. And what we will likely see is enforcement against bad actors. I don't think it's early enough. I don't think it's, I think we need to wait a while longer before we figure out what shape the legislation will take. I think that there's a non-zero risk that we see regulatory capture by projects like XRP and Cardano that don't really have any underlying technology, but do have strong marketing departments and high token prices. Yeah, you know, it's a different set of challenges that we're facing as an industry now. But yeah.
Do you have any hot take or kind of prediction or kind of scenario for 2025? Because I think what you're describing also opens the door now for projects to basically sell vaporware and, like, you know,
they're going to. Like, you already see it. The AI agent space is rife with it. There's people with an LLM, like literally just getting a Claude subscription and pretending like they're an AI agent. And like that's 90% of AI coins probably. Look at what happened to AI 16Z. Like, you know, this is what's old is new again. And like people are going to get rugged. Like, you know, back in our day, it was NFTs and now it's meme coins. Yeah. And then the meme coins are going to start launching NFTs. You know, it's going to be like, we're going to see all the same stuff. Like none of it should be surprising.
What is old is new again. I love that. Yeah. And I think honestly, like, I guess every cycle is the same, right? There's going to be 2 or 3 huge actors, companies or whatever, protocols that will reach, I guess next cycle is going to be hundreds of billions in kind of value or TVL or market cap.
Yep.
That will just implode. And then that's going to be sending us to a multi-year bear market again. So I guess, yeah, this is probably also the message for everybody who is maybe new to crypto or to kind
I think that there is the one asterisk I would put on that is I think we see a multi-speed crypto ecosystem moving forward. I don't think we see unified cycles the same way we used to.
How do you mean that?
I think for a long time, and I think even as late as the 2020-2021 cycle, you saw everything up only.
Okay.
And what you've seen, especially during this bear market, is, you know, modular stuff has gotten hit really hard. This like high FDV, low float thing, new projects got hit really hard. Bitcoin outperformed substantially. Like, I don't know if we see another like giant bear market in Bitcoin again, especially if the US government starts creating a national Bitcoin reserve. Like 100%. Highly unlikely, like that has the potential for Bitcoin super cycle. Does that filter down into the rest of the asset class? Is Ethereum and Solana the same thing? Like, I think we start to see those things diverge a little bit more. And I think we start to see much more differentiation between winners and losers in the space, because it kind of has to happen. We can't keep propping up all these projects at these huge valuations. People are going to sell and they're going to rotate into what's live and rotate away from what's dead. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like just before we had this Dino coin rally, I think.
The Dino coin rally, I love it.
Yeah, I was also thinking like maybe this cycle is different, but then like they all start pumping like out of nowhere. Coins where I think like, okay, I don't know, like if there's so much going on compared to like the new shiny blockchains and coins, but I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be outperforming categories like AI is probably going to be one, but I also think RWAs are going to be one. Privacy, I'm not sure. Like I said, I think now with this new kind of ruling, could be a huge privacy season. But I think historically during bull runs, privacy coins have always slightly underperformed, like behind. What are some of the categories that you're kind of mostly bullish on in terms of 2025, 26, probably bull run? Or
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think that we see Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is a massive slept on thing. Like,
okay, let me ask you there. So
yeah.
do you think there's going to be a Bitcoin season where all this kind of new Bitcoin ecosystem, you know, with the Babylons and all these Bitcoin L2s and ordinals, like, do you think when you say Bitcoin only BTC, or you mean the whole kind of vertical?
I think the whole vertical. I think if BTC continues to go up, the holders are going to want financialization. You know, what I'm hearing in the trenches, people have been talking, I'm hearing things. What I'm, you know, and I've heard this for a long time, is that there's a lot of OG Bitcoiners that want leverage on their Bitcoins. You know,
Yeah.
the old, like, don't trust the exchanges mentality is super strong. There is a strong distrust around multi-sigs in Bitcoin world for a variety of reasons, but I think most of it's reflexive that hampers THORChain growth, candidly. So, like, helping to answer some of those critics and provide better security there would be good. But I think that there's newer stuff coming out, stuff like pipes and a few other things, where there's using zero knowledge proofs to help provide strong programmability into Bitcoin. But I think that there's a lot of capital there. And as Bitcoin number goes up, there's going to be more and more. And that capital will want to deploy. If you look at what's happening with Master right now, Saylor's getting like 40% on his like Bitcoin lending, which is like fucking wild. The reason why those rates are so high is because there's a lot of demand for Bitcoin borrowing, but no supply of Bitcoin borrowing. So I think we see that correct over this cycle. And when you look at the amount of capital that frees up, you know, what is ETH as a fraction of Bitcoin price? ETH is like a quarter of Bitcoin's price. So, you know, to see, and then like Solana even further down is a 20th of Bitcoin's price. So to see an ecosystem like Solana get created out of thin air by an increase in the Bitcoin lending rate is not like going to happen. So like, that's an opportunity. I don't know exactly what's there. I'm looking at stuff.
Do you have a take on Babylon?
It's great. I think restaking is one of those things that a lot of people were really excited about, and they're going to have to prove utility. I think that part of the fundamental idea behind restaking is that they will be able to offer better returns to asset restakers than just asset staking itself. And I think that looking to build real yield with SOM, looking to build real yield with chains on the Cosmos hub has left me broadly skeptical that finding those high real yields to justify restaking are going to be a massive driver of financialization. I don't know. I think it's an open question. I think it's great. I think that what Babylon has done is encouraged a lot of Bitcoin whales to participate and brought some capital in. But again, if you look at the amount of capital compared to the amount of capital that exists within Bitcoin, it's kind of on the smaller end.
Yeah.
And what those projects are betting on is that they'll be able to 10x, 100x that amount. So again, this is where those, like, if you want to create an ecosystem the size of Solana, like increase the Bitcoin lending rate, like that's a massive market opportunity. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of competition in that space. And, you know, looking at doing something like integrating a bunch of different restaked Bitcoin into a single protocol the risk profiles are so widely variable. There's so many of them. The capital's really spread out. Hard to figure out how to do that effectively.
Yeah, I personally think Babylon is going to play a big role to kind of build the main rails, but then it's about the kind of whole ecosystem around it to also build yield generating products around it, right? But I think Babylon, I think right now they have around 2 billion in TVL, but today in a week they're going to open up the caps, and then it's going to be unlimited for pretty much a week. So I think that's going to really show how many people are going to ape into that, how many Bitcoiners.
Look what happened with Eigenlayer.
Yeah.
Like, do you hear about Eigenlayer right now? Are people restaking their ETH?
Well,
Like,
I think, okay,
no.
there's also a fair point about, obviously it's also incentivized through points, right? There's going to be a point, or there is already a point system on Babylon as well. There was the same case on Eigenlayer. But I don't know, I feel like for Bitcoin, it's probably because there is no competition. I think on Eigenlayer, the ETH community has already had a lot of kind of ways to generate yields, and like just by staking ETH natively, like I don't know. I feel like in Bitcoin, you can't really stake your BTC, so this is kind of going to be the first time people can actually generate yield. So I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
could be different there, but we'll see. Yeah, definitely too early.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm contractually obligated to say that you could generate yield on THORChain, but I think that there's a lot of risks to the LP structure that Bitcoiners would not like, which is, I think, why you're not seeing a massive inflow of capital there. I would also point to a bunch of other centralized Bitcoin lending protocols that have done very well and will continue to do very well. But I do think the dynamic that you're pointing to is correct directionally, which is that strongly decentralized systems that are able to market effectively to the extremely paranoid Bitcoin consumer will draw in capital. Whether or not they're able to make returns on that Bitcoin, I think, is an open question that has not been studied nearly enough.
Okay, so we got Bitcoin, privacy, THORChain for sure, AI. Is there any other vertical category that you're bullish?
Yeah, I think Solana.
Solana. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so like one other thing that we've talked a lot about on this pod that we haven't talked about, but which is a sub theme that sort of like undergirds a lot of these other conversations, which is interoperability, and where I've spent most of my last few years. I think that now that is a roughly solved problem. There's a ton of different solutions in this space. There's many that are like great. If you go look at the interop leaderboards, IBC has slid down, but CCTP's up there, Hyperlane's up there. We're seeing the rise of different MPC protocols. THORChain is effectively an MPC protocol. Particle Network is one that I saw across the feed today, where you can control MPC wallets on many different chains. All of these things fundamentally work the same way. But what we're seeing now is, you look at Skip's product and a few other ones out there, people are starting to figure out how to knit this together into a coherent pattern so that actual users can use a bunch of different chains from a single interface, whether it's a wallet or some other bridging infrastructure that abstracts a lot of that away. And if you go back to the shows in 2021, where we're talking about abstracting interoperability and like packet forward middleware and all of these things, like all of that's live. It works today, and like it's substantially a problem that's not even a huge problem anymore. And I think that when you see stuff like Union coming live, like it's going to wipe away the last vestiges of issues there. So that is, I think, necessary for any new protocol, is to be able to easily bring in money. Like I should, as an average user, be able to just show up and deposit. And like that is within 10 minutes. If you can't spin up a wallet and deposit within 10 minutes from a credit card, like you're kind of fucksville. And that, I think, is one of the biggest barriers to building a new chain, is to being able to provide that service. Chains like Noble can help provide it with Kato and other things. So I think that there's a number of anyway, I think that interoperability is like one of the bigger wins if you look at the ETH ecosystem, this is still a very much live question there, which is why I think Union is going to be really exciting for that world. But if you look at Vitalik's design for interoperability between ETH and L2s, it looks exactly like IBC, which is cute.
Are you more bullish on Sol than Ethereum?
Yes. Yeah. Much lower market cap, more room to run. We built a little game on Solana. I'm not like advertising it as something we built, and it's something we're continuing to iterate on. But if anyone's interested, it's called chicken.fun. Go check it out. And we'll be shipping some more features there. We've got a few things like better Phantom Wallet support for auto approvals and a few other things that we're working on there. But yeah, it's a game where you can go play chicken. If anyone's interested in that, please hit me up.
Also, for the records, you introduced me to Merge, like, I think it's like 8-9 months ago already. And we tried to schedule a show like 3 times, like between you and Mert and me, like, kind of debating Cosmos Solana. Like maybe, inshallah, one day we can get it done.
Mert's in Dubai. You just got to show up at his house.
Man, he was at Cosmos. I brought him to Cosmos.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because you opened that group, and I just hit him up, and then he just moved to Dubai, and then he came to Cosmos. He was on a panel. I showed him around a little bit. He was on 2 panels actually, so he had a good time. Yeah,
like
he's a very,
we've
very
been
nice guy.
texting a bit lately. We're using Helios RPCs for this. But yeah, I mean, we did this as like a, we were like sitting talking in an engineering meeting one day, and I was like, we're building all this like fucking new consensus systems and really right curve stuff, and like we just need to do something real dumb. And one of my engineers was like, what about a game where you can play chicken? And I was like, that's fucking brilliant. Why does this not exist yet? So we built it. It was really instructive. We used a bunch of AI tooling, and I've got strong engineers, but we don't normally build front ends, and we were able to generate most of the contract code, get it checked by some experts, build out the front end, and ship a basic version of this product within 2 weeks.
Where's
literally
the game?
Impossible to do on Cosmos. Chicken.fun. Go to chicken.fun. Check it out.
Chicken.fun. There we go.
Do you want to play a game? We could play a game right now. Do you have a Solana wallet?
I have one, yeah.
Okay, which one?
If I have a Solana wallet, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I have Backpack and Phantom.
Phantom. Okay. Phantom. So it's the game is you both contribute to a pot, and then there's this reward curve. If you take too early, the other person wins more of the pot, and the later you take, the more the winner takes. So you try to just wait as long as you can, and then whoever takes it first. We've got a keyboard shortcut, so you can like hit the space bar to send the transaction. But if you have Phantom, you need to then click approve in the thing, and there's some additional latency, so it's a really subpar user experience. If you want to do it where you can just hit the spacebar and send the transaction, you need to use like a Soulflare burner wallet. But the Phantom team's we're talking to the Phantom folks about this. But yeah, it's just a silly little game. Yeah, well, the thing I was most stoked about was the domain chicken.fun, which I think is a valuable piece of real estate.
Yeah, sounds like it. Let's do.
I never declared Adam dead. I've just been broadly skeptical of the longer term roadmap.
Man, we talked so much about this over the years. Right?
Yeah. I think that it's interesting to see the Atom price recovering, which is good. I always thought the drawdown from 10 was a little bit overblown. There is things happening that I can't talk about, which are going to be interesting. I think that the Atom community still has life in it, and they seem to want to make a go of it.
Yeah.
What I have seen of the roadmap is interesting. It'll be cool to see how that goes.
Atom 3.0.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do, because we have kind of...
UFO war in the sky today. I don't know how much of that is just like AI generated video or like real. It seems like a paranoia, but we'll see.
Here's a quick one. Sui versus Solana. What's your views on, I guess Sui talked about Solana already.
I think step way back. Tech is way less important than you think it is. The differences between SLI and Solana are primarily cosmetic. There's a ton of SWI bag holders with no real activity on the network. I know a bunch of validators who went over there and validated and made millions, if not tens of millions of dollars validating empty blocks on SWI. I am, I was just talking with Josh Bowen on Twitter today about the difficulty of getting custody for a new protocol. Getting custodians to support things like this is super hard. There's also the skill issue of getting people to write it, which is, I think, less now with generative AI. But yeah, I think SWI has a huge uphill climb, and I think Solana has a ton of users. And I think that is a big difference. Also, from a messaging and marketing perspective, what's the marketing message for SWI? Is it clear? I, as a fairly informed crypto consumer, really have no idea what SWI is selling. I'd love somebody to SWI pill me, but if you go online for 5 minutes, you know exactly what Solana is selling fast. And while the blockchains might operate at the same speeds, Solana has clear branding, direction, leadership, and community momentum behind it, whereas SWI has virtually none of those things. So that would be my SWI versus Solana take.
Yeah, I think that's a fair one. Agoric
orchestration. Great. Would love to see some use cases with some volume.
Your allocation for 2025. If you can talk
about. On my PA is long Solana right now. I've got some random meme coins. Let's go Spice. Nice. And then a smattering of other Cosmos things. I am not long enough Bitcoin, but I do have some Bitcoin too.
Do you have Sherpa too?
Sure. I missed that one. Maybe I need to get in.
Yeah, that's the mantra coin. But yes,
Jack, do you own Spice? Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, talking about this AI stuff, Akash has a cool thing. And I think, as folks will know, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that I have often commented on revenue numbers from Akash, and I'm annualize that daily number and tell me if that's real money. And what is it? Akash. If anyone has the console.akash.network mainly, if anyone has the link to the Akash stats, I would love to look at it. Stats, it's stats.akash.network. Daily USD spent is now up around 10,000 a day. So 10,000 times 365. I mean, that's a 3 million annual run rate. A 10x gets us to a 30 million annual run rate, and a 100x gets us to a 300 million annual run rate. Once we see that, then we're starting to talk about much more real money. But I do think that that's an incredible use case. I do think they're going to see a ton of competition there. I think where Akash has an advantage is that they're more flexible than all of the other platforms. Basically, all of the other AI platforms I've seen are not offering generalized compute. They're offering a specialized service. And as the field advances, what we're seeing is those specialized platforms are becoming obsolete relatively quickly. Akash has been able to sort of build something general that has helped them kind of continue to stay abreast of the cutting edge. As a consumer of some of those products, I'd love to see Akash make it easier to train on Akash. If they could make it, because there's a number of data locality issues with containers and very large models that make training on Akash relatively difficult. I think that there's some Kubernetes things you can do to make that easier. And I'm currently doing some research into that. But yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that Akash could 10 or 100x that revenue and then become a real thing. And if you look at the different DePIN projects in terms of revenue, Akash is consistently at the top. So yeah, very, very bullish on that.
Also, a year ago, I'm just on a chart, revenue was $100.
Nothing. It
$50.
was nothing.
So
It was
kind of
nothing.
100x over the past year without actually having a proper bull run.
Yeah.
Do you think?
If you look back in November of 23, they went from like the $100 range up into the $1,000 range, kicked around in the $1,000 range until July of this year. And then we just took the next leg up to the 10K range. You know, with a two-sided marketplace like this, supply and demand kind of have to come up together. So I think that's why we're seeing some of this kind of stepwise growth. But if you look over the last month, it's kind of started to stabilize around that 10K range. I think that what you're likely to see is a little bit of stabilization there before new use cases bring it up the next 10x.
Yeah. Do you think, final question, do you think that we're going to see a proper Cosmos season at some point?
Back to my sort of comment on Cosmos, that we see Hyperliquid, we see Celestia, we see all of these different projects that are like Cosmos tech. I don't think those things are coupled, the token prices and the tech. So like what is core Cosmos now? It's Atom, effectively. And you can see this, like Osmosis is shipping very interesting things. I think the Osmosis team is still doing a great job, but their token price is lagging Atom significantly. And that's because Atom is a major and it has better distribution with exchanges. And like, candidly, that's what matters. And then the air is going to get sucked out. And like, oof, that's a tough situation. So do we see a proper Cosmos season? We're seeing the beginnings of it. Does it really happen? I don't know. I'd love to see it. I'm going to cheerlead it.
Yeah. No, I think over the years, I always said, you know, Cosmos obviously, or Atom does not equal Cosmos. Cosmos is an idea, it's an ecosystem, it's a stack, whatever. But I think at this point, you know, whatever.
Atom is Cosmos. Yeah. We've come
right
all the way back. We've come all the way back around as an ecosystem. All of the people who said Cosmos is more than Atom, they're all gone, me included. Like, I'm not really a part of the Atom thing anymore. Like, they're doing their own thing. They've pushed out everyone who thought that Cosmos was more than Atom. And now they've got their own little playground. What they make of that and where that goes, I'm excited to see. Yeah.
And with that, I think we can leave it for today. Would love to see you before the year end. Maybe if we can make it happen before.
Yeah, for sure.
Before Christmas.
Let's schedule it right now. You tell me before Christmas.
Okay. I'm flying out.
I could do. When you're flying out on the 20th, you want to do like the 19th at the same time?
Let's do 17 if that works.
17, that works. I'm going to block it off right now.
There we go. Live in action, scheduling the next show. Jack, thank you so much. Also, chat for all the questions. We had around 100 people here. It's been good, as always, man.
Awesome. Cito, we'll talk soon, man. Catch you.